So tell me something, do you always use a CPL filter in your beach photography? Comment yes or no below and I'll reveal the results in a week or so. I'm going to take a slightly different approach, as you would expect from that old photo guy. Right, on to the video. So welcome to another fantastic day at the beach. In this video, I want to explain why I never use a CPL filter when I'm at the beach with my camera. In fact, for me, I never use it in beach photography, coastal photography, or even landscapes. I just never use it. And in this video, I'm going to explain why. So let's really understand what the benefits of a CPL filter can actually give you. I suppose I started my photography at a time when having a CPL filter on the front of your camera was absolutely essential, because it helped saturate the colours, it improved contrast, and for the coast it cut through a lot of the visible haze that you can see, especially in those sort of long shots across a bay like we have in St Austell Bay. But of course there are drawbacks, and the biggest of them all is the effect that a CPL filter will have on your exposure and the light available to the sensor. It also is probably not so well known that if you're using a wide angle lens, less than say 24mm, you're going to end up with some slightly distorted light within the frame as well, which of course is no good thing and probably something that you cannot rectify in your editing software. So those are two main objections, I think. And of course, I've got a third objection. I particularly like shooting across rock pools, gathering reflections, and so on. In fact, glare is actually part of my photography. So to have something on the front of my camera that actually reduces glare and prevents me from getting excellent reflections in the water, then yeah, the CPL filter has got to go. So what I'm going to do today is just take a few shots, some with a CPL filter and some without a CPL filter. I think the most important thing to recognize is that whatever your feelings about CPL filters, ultimately your photography is about your own creative vision. And if you're using something that can interfere with that vision, like a CPL filter, then, yep, it just has to go. So let's briefly consider the creative vision that you might have in a particular shot. For example, and we'll stick with filters here, so if you want to create a minimalist shot, maybe of a rock just off the beach, you might want to consider using an ND filter so you can smooth out the waves and create that sort of ethereal type feel. However, do you need that to be saturated through the use of a CPL filter? Chances are you don't. And I think there are probably a lot of situations where a CPL filter may just get in the way, but you're used to having it on the front of your lens, so you stick with it. The second thing to consider is, when you have a CPL filter on the front of your lens, the shots that you take have some sort of baked-in features, if you like. There's this sort of additional saturation, which in editing software can be quite difficult to reduce without any other artifacts occurring within your image. So for me, I like to take shots with my camera that are as neutral and as balanced as I can probably get when I'm talking about tonality and colors and light. And to do that, there is no CPL filter involved. In fact, I set my camera on a neutral setting so I can get as flat an image as I possibly can for editing in my Lightroom Classic software at a later date. So with those things in mind, let's go ahead and take some photographs. The light this morning is incredibly strong, and I'm sure there's some pretty harsh shadows falling across my face and the rocks and everything behind me. So it's going to be a tough job to minimize those effects. But I'm going to take some shots, some with a CPL filter, and then I'll take the same shots again without a CPL filter, so that we can actually see the differences between them. Okay, let's see what we can find. So out of those shots, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the filtered or the unfiltered shots? Let me know in the comments below. So the fabulous day continues. Right, so I've got this sort of little canyon here which has got lots of different colour in it. So I'm proposing to take shots using a CPL filter and without a CPL filter, of course. I've got colours ranging from a creamy quartzy type colour through to slate grey to oranges, amongst all the different life forms and colours of rock. So there's a whole range of colour to try and pick out here, and yeah, let's see how we go. Okay, I'm shooting at f8 1/250th and ISO is around 250. With a CPL filter. There's some really deep shadows in here as well. Right, let's try that without a CPL filter. Okay, already I can see that my shutter speed needs to be a lot faster. So I'm on 1/500th f8, around 400 ISO. Already I can see that the colours are much flatter than with the CPL filter, which gives me a lot more latitude when it comes to editing the images a little bit later. If I've already got that saturation, boy, is it devil's own job trying to get rid of it if you don't want so much. So starting with a flat image without a CPL filter, for me, is the way to go. Well, I don't know if I've actually convinced you whether or not you should be using a CPL filter, but if at the very least I've given you some food for thought, and maybe try not using a CPL filter next time you're at the beach. Of course, shooting without a CPL filter is not for everybody. It really does depend on your creative vision. What is it you're trying to achieve? But I would suggest that without a CPL filter, you're starting from a really good base position. Camera neutral, no picture profiles or anything like that. So keep your camera neutral, take your photographs, get to your editing software and produce something that reflects you and your time at the beach. That's it for now. Until next week, bye. What a day.